We begin with a new ad from WorkSafe Victoria that's, let's take a look.
Your fur's looking mighty fine today.
If your workplace is making you feel, know what to do next, because sexual harassment is never acceptable.
What a monster. Both of them. The ad is part of a series with scenarios about workplace bullying and safety standards.
Order up! Burger, table 29! Hurry up, hurry up! Where's that order?
If your workplace is making you feel, know what to do next, because inadequate safety gear is never acceptable.
I get the point, but I think you might be too flammable to work the grill. Karen, what?
Oh my gosh. Now, it's catchy.
Yeah.
It's a cute ad. I think it has stand out because it's so visually different from most of the things we'd see in the category. And I think it's a good representation of how awkward and strange you can feel in your first job. I do think the media formats are pretty traditional, right? Like, it's a film, it's some posters for in your workroom, driving you to a website. And it's the same thing we would have expected from a workplace campaign from 20 years ago. I think what marketers continually fail to recognise is that Gen Zs, who this is aimed at, use media and consume media in a completely different way from every single generation before them. So if you go on TikTok, there's hundreds of thousands of story times, as they call them, of Gen Zs talking about bad workplaces, and they probably should have gone and inserted themselves in that conversation instead of trying to make them go somewhere else, which makes me think that they've actually approached their business problem wrong. If they're trying to get Gen Zs to feel less vulnerable in the workplace, I don't think they need to educate them about how to recognise bad behaviour. I think they need to educate people in the workplace about not committing unlawful bad behaviour in the workplace and break that cycle. I think that'll be a really challenging brief and a fun brief where you get a really good solution of, like, how do you stop people from being dickheads at work?
No, I think this is outstanding. You know, at first I thought, OK, WorkSafe has fallen for the latest trend. The latest trend being we have to have distinctive assets. So every advertiser is trying to create a distinctive asset, you know. So whether it's using an existing talent or whether it's the creation of something, it's the new trend. But then when I think about it a little further, what they've done is they're trying to personify a feeling, yeah? And I think the reality is in the workplace is that right or is that not right, especially for young people? I'm not sure. I'm new to a culture. I'm not entirely sure whether that behaviour is right or not. Maybe it's normal. And so it is a fuzzy feeling. And I think as a result of the personification of the feeling, I think it's actually going to work. And so in the end, right, you're creating advertising for an effect. And I'm going, I sort of, a little penny dropped, Will, that's all. And I thought, no, this is more than being a trend in advertising. This is genuinely going to work. I think this is going to work incredibly well.
Well, Russell, you told me that I had a distinctive asset and that made me feel uncomfortable in my workplace.
I mean, it's very government advertising. It's very difficult to do good government advertising because it's very formulaic often, because it's heavily researched, and it's often art-directed more by the government than by the agency. And this one has that sort of memory anchor in the device. You know, it's non-gender, so it allows them to avoid any kind of debate about who, what, and where in this situation. But my worry a little bit, I'm uncertain here, because they're aiming at young people. They reckon between 15 to 19. But to me, is that trivializing? Is that saying that these serious issues of sexual harassment in the office, is this trivializing it? Is it sort of implying in a way that young people shouldn't get the same level of seriousness as older people? And so for that, it makes me wonder if it's kind of the right strategy, but the execution is a little bit, well, arguably a little bit dodgy.
You know the challenge there. They've got the challenge of going, how do we make someone not feel like they are being pointed at for doing something wrong? So all of a sudden, any person could be this fuzzy guy, or girl, sorry. But I think that anonymity really added to the point of going, it can be relatable. I totally get what you mean. How many people do we actually know who are in these scenarios? But surprisingly, I think you kind of sometimes need to go with such obvious scenarios in a work, you know, like, what does work safety look like? We're not going to be talking about back problems in our chairs at home and our work from home studies, right? These are kind of like blatant scenarios that we can help paint the problem and then go, okay, fair enough. It gives me a reason to talk. So, I mean, I get the points, but it made me laugh.